My name is Aditi and welcome to my channel Raj, Ocean of Knowledge, knowledge for everyone. So today we will be starting with a new math series, and our first topic in our math series would be coordinate geometry. So I want to make just one small request. Please don't forget to comment, share and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button down below and the bell icon so you never miss any update of the channel. So, without wasting time, let's get started. The gradient of a straight line. Now, it's not something very difficult. The gradient of a straight line, or the gradient, is basically the slope of a line, right? A straight line has a slope. It's like basically a slope, right? So it has a slope. That slope is basically the gradient in mathematical terms, all right? So the gradient of a line, straight line, all right, specifically straight lines. Only for straight lines, the gradient is constant. It's always constant. And if it's not constant, the line isn't straight. All right, so the gradient. Gradient is equal to y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. And first you do subtraction, like you just follow the BIDMAS or the BODMAS rule, and then solve any kind of problem that you get. In mathematics, you have to follow the BIDMAS or BODMAS rule, whatever you take as, right, the BID or BOD. Anyway, you have to first solve the indices, right? The brackets. You first solve the brackets, and then you move for division of the both terms, right? The both numerics, right? So that's a simple mathematical rule, and you have to remember that. And this formula is very important. You have to memorize it by heart, or if you don't want to memorize it, practice as many questions as possible so that this formula fits in your mind, because the coordinate geometry consists of many questions of this formula. Okay, using this formula, so you get many questions which require this formula to be applied, right? Almost all questions, I think, at an intermediate level. Okay, so example, when you have the point A, 2, 2, and the point B, 6, 6. Now 2 is the x coordinate and another 2 is the y coordinate. And same for the point B, x coordinate is 6 and the y coordinate is also 6. Here the 2 points, the x and y coordinates in both pointers are the same. I've taken these 2 points having the same coordinate, x and y coordinate, so that you can understand easily. All right, so 6 minus 2, or y2 minus y1. So this is the y2, 6, and the y1 is 2. So 6 minus 2 is 4. First you solve the brackets. All right, first you solve the brackets and then you go on to division. So one thing is left here. X2 minus x1 would be 6 minus 2 here, right? So 6 minus 2, again 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. And your m, or the gradient, would equal to 1. One thing, that the gradient is represented by the letter m. You should remember that. Okay? Because in the equation of a straight line, you would be given m, and you have to know that m is the gradient, nothing else. Okay, so just don't get confused. A line this way, like this way, pointing towards the right hand, like your right hand, it has a positive gradient. All right, the line this way has a positive gradient, and a line towards the left hand has a negative gradient. Okay, Both are moving away from the y-axis. Alright, actually that depends, so just leave that. You have to just know that the pointing of the line, that if it's pointing right or left, first you have to recognize that, and then when you recognize that, you know that the line pointing towards your right has a positive gradient, and line pointing towards your left has a negative gradient. And then when you get the positive and negative gradient, you can check your answer. So this is a good way of checking the answer, that if your answer is correct, if you're getting positive or a negative integer correct, it's pointing towards the right, and if your answer is in negative, right, you know that your answer is wrong. That's a good way of checking to some extent. Okay, so there is an example as well as this is an explanation of equation of a straight line. Okay, so m, as you know, that's the gradient. Here, the c, something new, you know. So c is basically the y-intercept. Now, some people would ask, what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is like the slope. This is the slope. This is the straight line. Okay, and it's starting from a point from here. Okay, so the distance of that start of that straight line, okay, and from the origin, the distance from the origin of that starting point of the straight line is the c. Just that distance, as you can see here with the arrow have mentioned there, and that's the slope, you know. So equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. Now you know, excuse me. Okay, so y is equal to mx plus c, and y and x here are the points. Suppose any given point, the y coordinate and the x coordinate of suppose an A point, which is 5 or 6, right? That depends, that can change, but the m, the gradient, and the c wouldn't change for that same line and the points on that line. Alright, so m is equal to 2, the point A is equal to 8 and 3, the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Okay, I think you have come to this video after knowing the basics of this, because in coordinate geometry you should know the basics, because else you can't study coordinate geometry, because you should know the coordinate, that it'll be x and y coordinate, 8 is the x coordinate, 3 is the y coordinate, all of the basic things you should know and then come to this video, because coordinate geometry will only be possible, right, for you if you know the basics. So first learn the basics and then come to this video. And if you know the basics, well and good. Alright, so find the straight line equation. They'll ask you to find the straight line equation. We just know the m here. Here we know the m, but in the question, in most questions, the m will not be given. You'll be having 2 points. Like suppose you have first point A is given here, and the point B also will be given to you, and then you have that gradient. You find that gradient, and then you put it into your question. So you have to practice how to solve for getting the gradient by the given 2-point coordinates. Okay, this is the x coordinate. You call them coordinates. Remember that. Okay, because in some questions they say this is the y coordinate, this is the x coordinate. You should know that it's basically the y and the x, nothing else. Okay, so that's why I'm saying learn the basics. Okay, so 3 is the y, so it's y is equal to mx plus c. So here we have the y, this is the formula, right? So you know the formula, you just put the y and x at their places. So y is 3, so you put 3 at its place, and 8 is x, so you put x at x's 8 at x's place, right? So 2 into 8 would be 16, and 3 minus 16 would be minus 13. You know that? So c would equal to minus 13. So what would be our answer? How would you write it? It will be y is equal to 2x minus 13. Okay, so parallel lines and their equations. Parallel lines and their equations. Similarly, lines with the same gradient must be parallel. Alright? So example for that can be y is equal to minus 3x plus 4. Okay? And y is equal to minus 3x minus 2. So there are two equations for different lines. Okay? Excuse me. Right? So you have two different equations for different lines. Alright? But the gradient of the both equation of the line, right, for both lines is the same. That means those both lines are parallel to each other. Okay? So the gradient of two equations of a line is same, or the gradient of two lines is same. That means those two lines are parallel to each other. Okay, point A, 0, 3 and 4, 7. Alright, point A would be 0, 3 and point B would be 4, 7. So for that line made from these 2 points would have the equation of a line y is equal to x plus 3 as their answer. Okay, so the gradient formed by these 2 points would be 1. Okay, that's why there's an x, and the c here is plus 3. Okay, so 1 is the gradient and plus 3 is the c. Okay, so y is equal to x plus 3. That's how you got the equation of the line for that question. A line segment is formed when 2 points are joined by a straight line. Okay, so line segment is formed like when you join 2 points like which are joined by a straight line, you join them by a straight line. Alright. Okay, so this Pythagoras theorem is actually needed for all kinds of geometry. So it can be coordinate geometry, trigonometry, simple geometry. Alright, these all need Pythagoras theorem. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. That should be set in your mind. Okay, let's move to the next slide. The midpoint of a line segment, midpoint of a x coordinate is equal to x1 minus x2 divided by 2. Alright, so midpoint of y coordinate, how you find? And sorry, wait a second. There's a little bit mistake that x1 plus x2 would first be solved. Alright, x1, it's x1 plus x2, it's not x1 minus x2. Alright, so it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. That would give you the midpoint of y coordinate and the midpoint of x coordinate. And when you find the midpoint of a y coordinate and the x coordinate, you get 2 points. Okay, the midpoints, like this is the line. Alright, so you get the halfway point here. X and y are the half of 2 lines, like of this one line. Alright, you get the halfway points. Okay, so the x coordinate would be, by solving from this, you get the midpoint of the x coordinate. Alright, that x would be there, and that y coordinate, with the midpoint of the y coordinate, would be here. That will show the midpoint okay, the midpoints of a line segment. Okay, so you're finding midpoint of a line segment. Okay, all right. So for example, you have a point A 1 3 and a point B 5 6. So x coordinate would be 1 plus 5 divided by 2 and 3 plus 6 divided by 2. All right, so you solve. 6 divided by 2 would be 3 and 9 divided by 2 would be 4.5. So x coordinate would be 3 and y coordinate would be 4.5. All right, and these two are the midpoints of a line segment for forming by these 2 points. Okay, so this is the halfway. Okay, halfway of the line segment, which is basically starting from 1 1 3, okay, the point A, and ending at 5 6, the point B. Okay, and the halfway of the line is 3 4.5. Okay, all right. Okay, perpendicular lines, a last topic finally. Okay, the perpendicular lines are basically, they form a right angle here. Okay, wherever they try. First property. Second property, that they cross. They form a cross type structure. Like it's just they form an X or a cross, you may say. Okay, and that those two lines form a cross that is known as perpendicular. Okay, they are being perpendicular when they are like forming a cross right there. Alright, so that means they are being perpendicular. Alright, so that's the line A, line B, okay, and that's the M1 and the M2. So like the line A has the gradient M1, alright, and the line B has the gradient M2. Okay, so these two lines have their own gradients and we are mentioning them as M1 and M2. Okay, okay, so example, suppose that M1 of the line A, or the gradient of the line A, is 3 divided by 2 and the gradient of the line B is 2. So 2 into 3 divided by 2 would equal to 1 because those two lines are perpendicular. Okay, let's explain you this. M1 into M2 if equals to minus 1, that means those two lines are perpendicular, and you know those two lines are perpendicular, and if you don't know that, you have to multiply the gradient of the line A and the line B to get the product of them, right? And if the product is minus 1, that means those two lines are perpendicular to each other. All right, so this relationship shows the two lines are perpendicular to each other are not. Okay, okay, so that's a formula itself. Remember this formula, or I'll just rearrange this formula and tell you just in a moment. So let's read this. Therefore the line A and the line B are perpendicular. That we got to know. You can find the gradient of a line which is perpendicular to another line by the gradient of that another line. Now, you know, if suppose you know that a question says that these two lines are perpendicular to each other and you are given with the gradient of those two lines, or you know the points and you find the gradient of those two lines, right? And you know those two lines are perpendicular to each other, but you don't know the gradient of one line. All right, suppose that is M1. All right, you don't know the gradient of line A, and you know the gradient of line B, right? And you know that they both are perpendicular to each other. That means their product would be, of course, minus 1. Okay, so what you would do is you would just rearrange the formula, put the value of m2 here, okay, and you know that it's equals minus 1, so you say m1 into m2 is equal to minus 1, and you take that m2 below that minus 1, okay, or you divide that minus 1 by that m2, and then you get the m1. Okay, so you're just rearranging the formula, and you know that the two lines are perpendicular and you have the gradient of one line, so you know their product will be minus 1, so you're just rearranging the formula to get the m1, or the gradient of the first line. Okay, so the formula for that would be m1 is equal to minus 1 divided by m2. Okay, so that would be your formula, the rearranged formula. The main formula is m1 into m2 is equal to minus 1. Okay, but you can remember any of the formulas, the rearranged formula or the main formula, any of the formula, that is perfectly fine. But you should know how to rearrange the formula. That is really important. Okay, so finally we're done with the video, and thanks for watching. Please don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button below and the bell icon so you never miss any update of this channel. And of course, take care, stay tuned, and goodbye.